Good evening. We will call our special council meeting to order. Please let our minutes show that all the councilors in attendance, minus Councilor Michael Walton. We have members of our staff, members of the media, and good to have you all with us. Item 3 is approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Counselor Smith will second that.
We're going seconded to approve the agenda for this special council meeting. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion is carried. Any items for conflict of interest for anyone this evening? Move on to item 5, 2025 general operating budget.
Treasurer Putnam will speak this.
Okay, so included in your packages is a comparison based on the numbers that we talked about on our November 12th meeting. Council had come back and asked if we could do a recommendation with a 3-cent increase to the LSDs and a 1-cent increase to Harlan. So that has been included in your package with a comparison to last year. Now, we did get our policing numbers in since we last spoke. And our policing for 2025 will be $1,034,812. This was $55,000 less than we had anticipated in the numbers that were given to you earlier this month. So we did have a $10,000 adjustment that we did to salaries since we talked last, and that was to top up in recreation. So all of that being said, our difference in our budget is $42,472.80. That is to the good. That could be used towards the savings that we have talked about that are necessary for all of the projects that we are talking about for 25 and 26 that need to be done. We did talk last meeting about $3.6 million in investments that Heartland has to continue to invest in over the next 5 years, most of which is in the next 2 years. The biggest investments, of course, being the replacement of our fire truck, being one of the most immediate. Some work on the 105 that has to be done. Just different projects, and I can go through them if need be. So you see the recommendation from November 12th. That has been put in. We did reduce the multiplier to 1.6 cents. What that allows us to do is to meet our capital expenditures of $76,865. That is our investment into the projects for 25 and 26 that we need to put in order to get to take advantage of funding opportunities that are coming our way. And again, this is based on information that we know as of now and what our expectations are for that funding. We do know that in 2025, our total debenture payments will be increasing to $260,259. And that's up almost $152,000 from last year. Last year, we were able to, we budgeted for capital reserves of $170,000. In our budget this year, we've reduced that to $85,000 for capital reserves. And we're trying to put more into our operating reserves. We do know that 2025 is going to be our initial year for the opening of the complex. There are a lot of unknowns that Rob has identified over the years, this year, that we really do not know what the true cost of the complex will be in its first operating year for sure. So we want to have some room in our operating reserves that if things aren't as we anticipate that they will be, that we have some room to maneuver and still be able to do the things that we need to do that we have planned for 25 and 26. So I've identified the changes from the last conversation that we had. And it's, at this point, it's proposed by staff that we put that additional $42,000 into our operating reserve, which would bring our total operating reserve for 2025 to $81,570. So I do, if there are other questions,
Maybe we should make him stay for one more year.
it's in the budget.
How come Coldstream's rates didn't increase when everybody else's did?
So what we are trying to do is get all of our LSDs eventually aligned. We had two outliers when we first amalgamated, one being Coldstream and one being Peel. And Peel continues to be quite a lot lower than the other LSDs. So this year, to bring everyone to the same, it just made sense to bring Coldstream to the same as everyone else is going to be. So
But we know why Coldstream pays more, correct? Because they have streetlights,
they have street lights.
and that's why they've always historically been higher. So I'm just wondering why they're not seeing the increase and everybody else is.
That is,
I know it's not a big base, but it's still, the way it looks is that they're getting things that Brighton's not getting, and they're not paying any more taxes for it.
It's also true though, that when you look at service, you think of waste collection as an example, or police. Those companies charge less for service to Coldstream than they do the other, because of the geography, because of their location, police and sort of thing. So, while it's true, yes, on the one side, they did pay more for streetlights at some point in the past. There's two things. One is that that's not the only factor in what those places pay for. And two is, as the treasurer said, I think it was council's thought in some of the committees is that it's a good thing that we would harmonize the rates across the board in all the former LSDs. As a way of, having everyone in the same position and, in general, just fairness and equality.
and the cost of streetlights for Coldstream, although every penny counts, that is almost a negligible cost.
I understand.
Not that $4,000.
I understand that, but the way it looks to me is that Brighton's had their taxes increased 15 cents in the last 3 years, and Brighton's has gone up 1 cent.
Coldstreams.
Coldstream's has gone up 1 cent.
But that ignores the critical fact of where they started 3 years ago. So Coldstream was much, much higher before, so it's brought them up to parity with the other.
Is this not what we agreed to do anyway?
It is in the explanation.
I thought it was 3 cents across the board is what I thought.
The only piece that I would say when we first started talking, it was 1.0 cents for Heartland and 3 cents across the former LSDs. Paper here, it says 1.5 cents in the proposal. And that's the only thing I see on paper from the recommendation from November 12th.
And that is an error on my part,
Okay, so it's
because
just one.
the actual motion is
Is
for the
1.0.
one thing. Sorry,
No, that's okay.
thanks for bringing that up.
You're welcome. It's just written down. That is what we voted on at the last meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where are you seeing it, Jason? Sorry.
Just at the very top of the recommendation
Okay.
in the,
No, actually it is. It's 3 cents and 1.5 cents.
Yeah, that's
for
what-
Heartland.
Yeah. It was my recollection too, to get you to
Sure.
1.5.
Yes. Because Heartland would go to 1.5489 from 1.533. So it's half of the increase.
So
so
what is the justification for Heartland's increase being 50% of the former LSDs?
Increases that where we have spending, next few years, capital spending and operating increased costs across the board. That was one way of sharing those costs to some extent, that the LFCs, while taking, you do take a higher hit, double if you will, but Highland takes a lower one. And it's also should be considering where Highland starts. As a percentage increase, it's much larger than one else. Like a percentage increase, Heartland's increase is much more nominal or marginal. And the LSD increase is more substantial relative to their tax rate of roughly 70 cents.
Any other questions for our treasurer?
Thank you very much.
A lot of time spent in developing this budget and getting to these numbers, so much appreciate everyone involved.
Be it resolved that council approves the 2025 general operating budget as submitted to council by CAO Weber and Treasurer Pelkey.
Second that, Councilor Patterson.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions regarding this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Those opposed? Motion is carried. Item 5.2, 2025 utility operating budget.
Even though the council approves the 2025 utility operating budget as submitted by the council by CAO Weber and Treasurer Pelkey.
Do you have a second?
Councilor Britton.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Is there any question? You have some, was there something to present?
Just that we had agreed on 5%. And then we filled out, what those numbers actually would be. So just to clarify where that comes out, that would take our household from $695 to $730 per year. It would take our commercial from $550 to $580 per year. It would increase our apartments from $475 to $500. And it would take our metered water rates that are currently at 0.00275 to 0.003 per gallon. Just to give clarification of what that 5% represents.
What was the last item per gallon?
Our metered water. Just as an FYI for you as well, last year our budget was $464,678. This actually increases our total budget to $472,098, but it does allow us to put the majority of that again into operating and capital reserves, again, for some of those projects that we need. One of the biggest things with water and sewer projects is it's a little bit harder to find funding for them. So it is important that we are building our reserves to make sure that when the funding is available to us, that we have the dollars available to take advantage of that funding.
So potentially the water line to the complex would fall under this?
So we have put the water line to the complex is currently in our CCBF funding. One of the bigger project asks might be the second well, if we had to investigate, and I shouldn't say a second well, but if we had to refurbish the second well that is just down front here, like we're currently investigating what those types of costs are to make sure that during peak demand times for the town that we are able to keep up, particularly if that peak demand might come during the spring runoff season. Seems to be when we could potentially have some issues with meeting peak demands. So for us to take advantage of that kind of thing, again, we have to build those capital reserves and get some of those savings in place so that we can, like I said, take advantage of funding when it's available to us.
And this also accounts for some possible new businesses or apartments or infrastructure that's to come to our community, correct?
Yes, we are also adding some costs in here for some connection fees that, first we have to do the outlay and then we get some of that back for sure. Yes, that's also included in this budget.
Any other questions for our treasurer?
Engineering fees is also a big increase year over year, just because we do have projects that are going to require our engineers to be involved more than they have been in the last year. For sure.
Thank you.
So the motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion is carried. Item 5.3, Indigenous recognition and representation agreements.
This is just, a motion to give council the opportunity to ratify the agreement we've already signed, with the Indigenous to place, public art at the, New Dane Ross Community Center.
Be it resolved that council ratifies the Indigenous recognition and representation agreement between the Williston Nation of New Brunswick and the artist Natalie Sapir for the creation of a piece of public art for the Day and Ross Community Center, moved by Councillor Smith.
Second that, Councillor Walden.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Is there any question involving?
Question, so we have a naming agreement with the Dan Ross Corporation. Have they been involved in this discussion?
In the naming agreement,
Have they been with the Indigenous art?
they're aware of it. That we reserve space for that, and that was always part of the agreement.
Any other question?
The cost that has been allocated for the art,
10,000.
is there more than one piece to come, or?
It's a large piece. It's something like a 3 foot by 12 foot piece that'll be displayed on that wall when you first enter the walking track. It's a single piece, but it's a large and even mosaic.
That price is mentioned right here in the agreement, so.
Thank you.
Further question? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion is carried.
I think it's important to let the record show your worship that passed unanimously.
Yes. Thank you. Item 6 is adjournment. Should we have anyone willing to?
I move we adjourn, your worship.
Okay. Thank you, ladies.